What's going on, guys? Archangel here with my top 10 games of the decade. I figured, since everyone else is getting on this little bandwagon of talking about what their favorite games of the last 10 years was, or the worst games of the last 10 years, I figured why not, throw my hat into the ring, talk about the games that I love the most throughout the last 10 years. So here we go, starting things off. Now, first thing I want to say, and I say this every time I do a top 10 video, it's opinion based. These are just the games that I, myself, personally love the most. That doesn't mean that the games that aren't on the list were bad games. It doesn't mean that the games that you played are bad games. It just means that these are the 10 games that I myself enjoyed. And the biggest reason I'm making this disclaimer is the first game that I'm going to talk about. I made a video a long time ago, and I'll even link it to this video, where I ranked the Halo games, and people were very, very upset with how I ranked that video. And again, it was opinion based. It was based on my opinion, and my criteria for that game was for that video was a lot of different things to what people are usually going for when it comes to ranking a shooter. It wasn't entirely based on nostalgia. It wasn't based on memories. It wasn't based on anything other than, you know, story, you know, writing, voice acting, and the overall impact of the multiplayer, as in how it feels. So when it came to that video, people were upset. And so I'm pretty sure, if anyone sees this video, they're gonna do the same thing is gonna happen. People are gonna see who number 10 on this list is, and they're gonna be upset because it's not, the other two games that came out in the same time frame as this game, or the other three games that if you want to include the collection. So what that game is? That game's Halo 4. Coming number 10 on my top 10 best games of the decade is Halo 4. And the reason is Halo 4 to me was the most perfect Halo game. And when I say perfect Halo game, it doesn't mean that it tells a better story than Halo 1 or Halo 2. When I say perfect Halo game, what I mean by that is this Halo was the Halo that felt more complete. As in, from a story standpoint, I loved this story. And you can say, well, it was just too much emotion. Me personally, I love emotion. I love emotion in video games. To me, it makes you be able to tell that the voice actors are actually acting and not just reading a script. And when it came to Halo 4's story, the voice acting was so good across the board. The writing was so good across the board, and the cinematics were so perfect. It was amazing. I enjoyed Halo 4's single player so fucking much. And, again, it might not be as memorable as Halo 1's story or Halo 2's story. But Halo 4's campaign to me was just so good. It was a modern day story. I would dare say that the older Halo games, Halo 1 through 3, they stack up. They stack up when it comes to 2019 and 2020 going into that, when it comes to storytelling. But Halo 4 captures what we really want to see in the modern era of storytelling in any kind of cinema, be it video games, TV, movie. And it had emotion. It had Chief show emotion. It had Cortana have emotion. It showed us a bigger bond between those two characters. We got to fully see how much Cortana meant to Chief, and vice versa. We have to see how for 4 games these two have been together. For 4 games they've been bonding. For 4 games they've been together, and we get to finally see what that meant through the emotion of a character who who's struggling. Who's struggling to figure out if he's even still a human, because Chief, when it comes to the games in the books, he's been a workhorse. He's just working nonstop. And when it comes to him, he's so by the book when it comes to himself and following orders and just doing things. People in the UNSC and people around the universe when it came to the humans, they kind of started viewing him as just a machine. That's what he is. They viewed him as a killing machine. They didn't view him as a person or a human. So Halo 4's story showed us the human side as a Chief. And if I recall, there's even a line in either Halo 4 or Halo 5 where the question comes up, is he even still a human? And it's just, again, from a storytelling standpoint, I feel like Halo 4 did such an amazing job at telling a story. And even going beyond that, when it comes to the visuals, the game was visually stunning. Like, Halo 4 is visually the best looking Halo game in my opinion. And yeah, you can say I don't like the way Chief's armor looks in Halo 4 and Halo 5. Opinions are opinions, and you have yours, and I respect your opinion. I just feel like the visuals were astonishing. And just like, even though it's not Marty O'Donnell, and people are always going to be super weird when it comes to soundtracks, so it's like, oh, it's not Marty, so therefore it's bad. Halo 4 still had a very good soundtrack. No, it wasn't as good as Halo 2 soundtrack or even Halo 1 soundtrack. Better than 3's, to be honest. And when it comes to multiplayer, Halo 4's multiplayer to me is the complete package. Halo 5 has a better multiplayer overall, but from a complete package standpoint, Halo 4's multiplayer is what I would like to have when it comes to Halo. People are so used to the old school Halo style, that slow paced movement, and to me, I didn't. Even though I will always go back and play Halo 1, 2, and 3, I so much prefer the movement of Halo 4 and Halo 5 than any other Halo game. Because to me, as someone who read the books, someone who watched the animated series and all the other little series that they've had for Halo, to me, Halo 4 and Halo 5, the Spartans move the way that they should move. They're not supposed to be bricks who move super slow. They're supposed to be stronger than the average human, faster than the average human, and they're supposed to move with the reflexes of a gymnast. They're basically ninjas in fucking armor. You're supposed to reflect that. Not, slow movement, just bobbing around. They're supposed to be able to sprint, to thrust around, be able to maneuver. And Halo 4 and 5 captured that very well. Is it perfect? No, because they're still restricted in these games. Spartans still move even way more, fluid and smooth and flexible in the books and series. But there's only so much you can do when it comes to a game, when it comes to movement speed and how a character moves. You can't, have them, doing spinning back flips and shit, with guns in their hand. It'd be cool as fuck to see that, and you can see them in, I think, Halo Legends. But, from a realistic standpoint, you won't see that in the shooters multiplayer. Final Fantasy 15 to me is the best Final Fantasy game. And yes, again, this is going to be biased. I know someone's going to say, you're being biased. That's the point. It's my video. It's my opinion. My opinion is going to be biased. And the thing about Final Fantasy 15, and I know it's a very controversial title. There's so many mixed emotions that when it comes to this game. But for me personally, this is the first Final Fantasy game I actually put time into. Not the first one I tried. It's the first one I actually put time into. It's the first one that I actually gave a chance. Now, in the previous Final Fantasy games, I looked at them and I was like, nah, not interested. But I played this game. I got so immersed into it. I got so engaged and I got so interested in it. And I even just from like a standpoint of just a story. The story is super good. I'm going to point that out, the first thing. The story in this game is so good, in my opinion, from the ground up. I don't think there's anything about the story that I dislike. Something about the story that I question. Nothing about the story that I find to be dumb or anything of that nature. To me, the story in this game is a freaking masterpiece. And I think that helps because I actually watched the movie first. And this is one of those kind of situations where it's like having previous knowledge helps out. I watched Kingsglaive before I played the game. I've owned the game since it came out. I bought the deluxe edition with the second is going to be pre-ordered. But I watched Kingsglaive before I played the game. And Kingsglaive, to me, is a good movie by itself. But it's not. This video is not about that. And so, if you watch the movie, the story makes more sense. Cutscenes make more sense. Characters make more sense. And you kind of say the same thing when it comes to like the whole little mini-series. It's like a little anime that gives you like even more backstory on Noct and his crew when it comes to like Pronto, Gladios, and Ignis. But even from like that standpoint, because again, the story, phenomenal. So we're gonna move from that to all the characters. The characters in this game are so good. Like when it comes, not even just from like your own character. Noct to me is a good character. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. Noct is a really good character. He has that same kind of complex as like say Sasuke. He's the same kind of like think of like Sasuke from like a lot of standpoints to even going further beyond that to have like a little bit more emotion than Sasuke does. And I know people are like, oh, he's kind of whiny. It's like, in a way, Sasuke was also kind of whiny, but it wasn't as whiny as say like Naruto was. But Sasuke did have like whiny qualities. And the same thing with Noct. And Noct, when it comes to how he acts in the game, it's just him growing up. He's still growing. He's a kid. He's still growing. And then when it comes to like his support characters, Pronto shows so much emotion. Pronto is such a good character. He's a lot of people's favorite character in the game is Pronto. And when it comes, you get even more details on these individual characters by playing their DLC. Their DLC episodes give them so much backstory, so much lore, and make them even better characters than they already are by the base game itself. In the base game, they're still all good characters, but the DLC made even better characters than they are. Gladios. Gladios is, he's the big brute of the crew, but unlike most big brutes in video games, he's not boring. Gladios is interesting. Gladios is a good character. He's not a boring, just big dude with a big sword. Again, DLC. His DLC is super fun. Then you have Ignis, the brains of the team. He's super likable. He's a super likable character. But even going beyond just those people, you have his father, Nox's father, King Ravus. He's a good character. You have Luna Freya. I love Luna Freya. I said before to a lot of my friends that I love a badass female character. And to me, Luna Freya is a badass female character who has no fear. She does not care. When she stood up to the Leviathan and just gave no care about her own life, just wanted to protect the village, protect the world. That's the proof of how much of a badass she was. Then you have Aranea. Aranea, I love Aranea so much. Such a good character. The visuals of this game. This game's fucking beautiful. The fights in this game. The boss fights in this game. Boy, the boss fights in this game is so good. Like, it's not only is it so good to take part in the boss fights, it's so good to look at. Now, I feel like that's something people miss when it comes to video games. It's one thing to just be fun to play. It's another thing to be fun to look at. The boss fights in this game are so fun to look at. So fun to look at. Especially when they fuse in cinematics with the boss fight itself. It gets so fun. And it gets so good. This game, like, I want to play it right now. Like, it's getting to that point. It's just such a good game. The combat is so good. And this game is so good, it made me interested into the universe. Like, because of this game, I started, being interested in Final Fantasy. I'm interested in Final Fantasy VII Remake when that does come out for the Xbox, whatever. I'm interested in playing. They're coming out with the Lightning series for Game Pass later this year. I want to play all 3 of those games because this game by itself made me interested into those. That's how good this game was. Now, I know you're going to see this game being at this position, that the spot that is in, and you're going to be like, what? But honestly, all the games on this list are great, amazing, beautiful games. All of these games on this list, to me, are games that, should have won Game of the Year or did win Game of the Year. So this video, when it comes to where the positions are on this list, don't look at it as this game is a bad game because it's this low on the list. This literally is the list of the best top 10 games of the last 10 years. So don't view this as, me hating on the game. But yes, coming in at this spot is Skyrim. And how good was Skyrim? How good was Skyrim? Just look at how many times they freaking release it. You had the original game on 360 and PS3 and PC. Then they had the special edition that came out where you can get all the DLC together for PC and Xbox and PS3. And then it came out with the new version for PS4 and Xbox One and PC. Then it came out with a Switch version. It's like there's so many. They came out with a VR version of Skyrim. There's so many versions of Skyrim, and it's just like they just keep milking this one game because it's that good. It's that well loved. It's that beloved. It's just good. It doesn't mean they should have milked it out. No, because every game has a lifespan. You can play a game you can buy a game so many times before you decide I'm not buying it anymore. And even Skyrim has reached that point where people are like, I'm not gonna buy another Skyrim game. How much you come out with Elder Scrolls 6? Like, stop milking out just one game and come out with Elder Scrolls 6. And we're at that point when it comes with that. So it's like you keep making Skyrim Elder Scrolls 6. But Skyrim is one of those perfect examples of the whole is it worth the money kind of question. And when it comes to that, I mentioned before in my previous video that every game, when it comes to is it worth the money, and people have that analogy of $1 per hour, and you can spend 200, 300 hours in Skyrim. So if you use that, that grade for how worth a game is, you well exceed, the worth of a game when it comes to you can spend 200, 300 hours in just one playthrough of Skyrim, and that's a good thing. And Skyrim itself, it's not the most perfect RPG of all time. Let's just get that out the way. It's a Bethesda game first and foremost. So there's bugs, there's glitches, there's game breaking situations in the game. But even with all of that, it's still a beautiful fucking game. It's so deep, it's so immersive, it's so engaging. There's so much lore from the ground up throughout the entirety of the game, from either it's in your face, in a book, in a side quest. It doesn't matter. There's so much lore across the board. To me, Skyrim is the best Elder Scrolls game. And a lot of people like Oblivion. To me, Oblivion is just an okay game. I like Oblivion, but to me, Oblivion is just an okay game. Skyrim to me is just such a great game from the ground up. And there's so much you can do. It's so replayable. I still play Skyrim to this day on my Xbox One. And that's with me having put in so many hours into it on the 360. It's such a good game, and it's one of those games where it's like, this is a classic. This is not just a game that you want to play and move on. We're gonna be talking about Skyrim in another 10 years. We'll be talking about Skyrim for 20 years. We've been telling our kids about Skyrim. It's going to be that game where it's like, back in my day, we played this game called Skyrim. It's just that good of a game. And the DLCs for it, the Dawnguard DLC is so good. Dragonborn DLC is good too. My favorite DLC was the Dawnguard DLC. Vampires, man. Vampires. Serana is such a good character. Such a good character. Laura Bailey's such a phenomenal voice actress. Skyrim is so good. Assassin's Creed Origins is a hell of a game. And I know people are going to be like, you have this higher than Skyrim? Oh. But here's the thing when it comes to Origins. Origins is literally, I won't say it's the best Assassin's Creed game, because that's not true. It's not the best Assassin's Creed game. It is the most complete Assassin's Creed game. Origins is where Ubisoft finally decided to try something new when it came to the franchise. Instead of being the usual action adventure, they made it more open world, turned it into an RPG. They changed up Assassin's Creed from the ground up. The game is basically a whole new franchise when it came to Star Origins. And you can sit here back and forth and say, well, what makes Origins better than Odyssey? Well, Odyssey is just Origins but Greek. So they kind of just took the same formula with Origins and then just changed the skin to a Greek skin. So Odyssey is just Origins but Greek. So obviously you're gonna pick the game that set the standard for this new formula for Assassin's Creed. And when it comes to that new formula, the combat stands out the most. The game is beautiful. It's across the board. Assassin's Creed Origins is just a astonishing game. Egypt looks gorgeous. Everywhere you go looks gorgeous. There's dream sequences that you go into for side quests that just looks ridiculous. The DLC Curse of Pharaohs is, Jesus Christ, that DLC. I'm a huge fanboy of ancient Egyptian mythology, so I love this game from out the gate. And when it comes to ancient Egypt in general, being able to go against Nefertiti and Tutankhamun and King Ramses and Akhenaten, that's just so good. It's so cool. It's so Akhenaten. You're literally fighting Akhenaten. You're fighting, Tutankhamun. You're fighting Nefertiti. You're fighting King Ramses. It's so, just those names is so powerful. It's just so it's so good. It was such a good fight, and the reason why those fights, any fight in the game, is so good is because of the combat. The new combat that they implemented into the Assassin's Creed franchise when it came to Origins and Odyssey is so good. You can say it's kind of just copy paste of the Dark Souls formula. That same kind of style that all games have adopted for the most part nowadays, and it just works so good when it came to this game. And when it came to you can literally have fights against Serket. You can have fights against I forgot his name, Sobek. You can you're fighting Egyptian gods. This game is just so good. Then every time I mention this game, I always mention Abubakar Salim because he's such a phenomenal voice actor and he did such a fucking good job in this game as Bayek. Oh my god, he was so good as Bayek. This game is just so good. It was so I know Skyrim, and I'm putting an Assassin's Creed game over Skyrim, but this game to me is more fun than Skyrim. It's better than Skyrim. It's better than all the games that are below it in terms of just being how good it is. It's just It revitalized Assassin's Creed. It made people care about the franchise again. It did a lot for Assassin's Creed from a fan base standpoint. Like not even just like new players, but from the core fan base of Assassin's Creed, it got you back into the franchise, made you interested into the franchise again. The franchise has been dying out since Assassin's Creed 3. And I like Assassin's Creed 3. I'm gonna do a video pretty soon on Assassin's Creed 3. But even then, the game has just been on a downward spiral and just dying because because the games just haven't been different, haven't evolved. They've just been the same game. They copy paste just every year, just a new hero, a new location. That's about it. And then you had that whole shit when it came to Unity, when it came to how buggy it was, how much times it was crashing. It's just like Unity was so bad in terms of like quality that Syndicate died on arrival. It was a dead on arrival game because people just had no interest in Syndicate, even though Syndicate itself was a good game. People had no interest in that game because how bad Unity was. So after that, Ubisoft had to like just sit there and like just reinvent the wheel to figure out how to make Assassin's Creed good again, and Origins was that answer. So I was sitting here thinking to myself, how am I going to go about the Dark Souls franchise? Because they're all good. There's Dark Souls 1, there's Dark Souls 2, there's Dark Souls 3. Whether it's Bloodborne, whether it's any of the Dark Souls games when it comes to even Sekiro. I'll include Sekiro into that conversation. How do you go about that? How do you pick between that? Because to me, you can't have all of them on the list. You can do like Bloodborne, Sekiro in a Dark Souls game, but for my criteria, what I'm thinking of is Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 is the most complete Dark Souls game. So therefore, it's going to be on this list. It beats out Dark Souls 1 and 2, and it beats out Bloodborne, because it's just better than Bloodborne overall. That's the first thing I'm going to say. It's me also I think it's better than Sekiro. I'm just going to be honest when it comes to it. Dark Souls 3 is From Software's best game. That's just my honest opinion, and mostly it's because when it comes to like Dark Souls 1 versus Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1 has a lot of good things about it. It's such a great game. But Dark Souls 3 is just better mechanically. It's better when it comes to a lot of the characters around you. I feel like the NPCs in Dark Souls 3 are better. I feel like a lot of the boss fights are better. Like yes, Dark Souls 1 has the most memorable bosses, and they have the most lore filled bosses because it's the first game. You have Gwyn, you have Victorious, you have Nito, so you have all these these villains, not villains, but all these bosses. But Dark Souls 3 bosses are just cool. Just from that standpoint, and again, even when it comes to a lore-filled boss, you have the Nameless King, you have Aldrich, you have the Mistwatchers. There's so much lore. Dark Souls 3 has so much lore. Dark Souls itself has so much lore. But what makes Dark Souls 3 stand out above the other Souls games when it comes to from anything from FromSoft is the combat and how smooth it is and how much quicker it is. I started playing Dark Souls 1 again, and that just the thing I feel about it is it feels so stiff. Like Dark Souls 1 has a very stiff feel to it. From the movement to the world itself, it just feels stiff. And Dark Souls 3 doesn't feel stiff at all. It just feels smooth. It feels like it responds to you in a very phenomenal way. And it maintains everything that makes a Dark Souls game a good game, and then it goes the extra mile. And that's across the board, from the visuals to the boss fights to the lore to the NPCs. The game goes the extra mile in all those categories. Dark Souls 3 is the perfect Dark Souls game, from the ground up. And I know people are going to go, but it's an easier Dark Souls game. Debatable. I feel like Dark Souls 2 is actually easier than Dark Souls 3. And Dark Souls 3 is the most popular of the franchise because it did get the most media attention. But still, it's just a phenomenal game. It's a flawless game. There's nothing about Dark Souls 3 that I find to be a flaw. I enjoyed that game so much, and I still play it to this day. There's nothing in that game that to me is a failure of design. There's nothing about the game that's a flaw. Nothing about the game that I would change. But yet Dark Souls 1 is stiff. And Dark Souls, that's the biggest thing that keeps Dark Souls 1 being over Dark Souls 3 is that movement, is the better combat that Dark Souls 3 has. So Dark Souls 3 comes in this spot on the list because it's just a better version of phenomenal games. Because all those games are Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Sekiro, all amazing games, but Dark Souls 3 is the best of those. Dragon Age Inquisition is just, oh my, like, This is one of those moments where you gotta like pause for a second because you know it's just so good. Like we're getting to the top five when it comes to this list, and these are just literally the top five best games of the last 10 years. And there's no game that is perfect for the number five spot like Dragon Age Inquisition, because it came out at a time where you were kind of, if you're a BioWare fan, you were kind of scared because this game came out in a time period where BioWare was in full swing of that downward slope, where things were not looking good for BioWare. That later led into just you're questioning whether BioWare is even going to still be a thing, because in it was your last hope. It was like this game has to be good because the ending for Mass Effect 3 was so public, and Dragon Age 2 was so bad in a lot of people's eyes. It's like this game has to be good. It just has to be. It has to be a good game, and it was. It was a phenomenal game. It was a phenomenal third game into a franchise that's been up and down. Because you had the ups of Dragon Age Origins, then you have the down of Dragon Age 2, then you have this potential failure of Dragon Age 3, but it becomes a success, a massive success, the biggest success BioWare has had with the Dragon Age franchise. Dragon Age Inquisition was the most successful Dragon Age game, and it deserves all of that. It deserves all that praise. It deserves all that success that it got, because it is, in fact, a phenomenal fucking game from the ground up. This game is fucking ridiculous. In Dragon Age, it comes from BioWare itself. BioWare is always a perfect developer when it comes to character design, when it comes to NPCs being massive, amazing characters. And this game does not miss a beat when it comes to that. Even Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2, as bad as people thought it was, it still had phenomenal characters. You still had your Anders, you still had your Varric, you still had, Fenris. Your NPCs were still great characters because BioWare does an amazing job of making sure your NPCs are good characters. And this game capitalizes on that, and even brings back some of the older characters. But another thing that BioWare is good at is making the things in your games a big risk. Like Dark Souls games make it risky when it comes to boss fights and you dying a lot. But BioWare games give you the risk of your companions could die. Your companions can leave your side because they feel like what you're doing is bad or wrong. In Inquisition, you can lose your companions. They can just outright leave you because they disagree with what your stance is. Massive heroes in the game can die. You can lose Shroud, who's a massive hero throughout the entire franchise. You can lose Anders. You can. I don't think you lose it, but you can lose Alistair. You can lose Alistair to let Alistair become a Grey Warden. You can lose Hawk. Hawk can die in Inquisition. The main character of Dragon Age 2 can die in Inquisition. There's so much weight in this game. A lot of weight, and it's such a good game. And the DLCs, this game has phenomenal extra content. And that's an important thing. It's important for a game to have good extra content. And even as bad as Dragon Age 2 was for most people, the DLCs for that game were still super good. And that DLC kind of bled into Inquisition because the main bad guy from one of those DLCs is the bad guy in freaking Inquisition. Which is kind of why Hawk has a big part in it, because Hawk felt like he killed Corypheus. He felt like Corypheus is his problem. But the game just... here's the thing about Dragon Age. Dragon Age does the exact same thing that Skyrim does, or any kind of like Elder Scrolls game when it comes to lore. The game has so much lore throughout all three games, and Inquisition, if you know that lore, you just feel like this game does such a good fan service when it comes to lore. It's just such a freaking good game. It's such a perfect game. It's super good, and it's very well deserving of this spot on my list. I feel like people ignore Inquisition. It did win a few Game of the Year awards. Like, it deserved all of that. I feel like people just like, it's one of those games where like once it got all the awards that it got, and once time went past, people just kind of forgot that it exists, and that's wrong because it's such a phenomenal game. It deserves that spot. Would it be any surprise for you to see this game not only on this list but in the top 5? Coming at number 4, Metro Exodus, the game that I just named my Game of the Year for 2019, the game that I feel like is the best game of last year, the game that I feel like is just so good and so phenomenal across the board that it has no flaws. Everything about Exodus is fucking good. Everything about Exodus is good. From the combat, to the story, to the dialogue, to the characters. Everything about Exodus is just so freaking good. It's ridiculous. And again, you can go watch my review of the game. You can watch my last video where it literally is the best game of the year to me. Metro Exodus is just a flawless game. And yeah, I played the first two games. I've read the book, so that does go into it. But that doesn't make it any less of a thing when it comes to how flawless this game is. And I can't stress it enough how important it is for your game to not only be good, but the story has to be to a point to where it keeps you engaged, it keeps you immersed, and it tells a well enough story that makes you want to keep playing. Because games like Skyrim, there's so many branching stories to where even if one story in that game is bad, you can find another story to enjoy. But a game like Exodus is a shooter, so you only have just the one story. And you have to follow that storyline. So that story has to be perfect, otherwise the entire game falls apart. At no point through this game does the story fall apart. It's such a beautiful game, and not even from a visual standpoint. Because when you say the word beautiful game, the initial thought is you just mean graphics. No, the atmosphere of the game. The atmosphere of the game is also beautiful. When it comes to every individual aspect, when it comes to the world building, when it comes to the environment, how it looks, not from graphic standpoint, but how war torn everything looks. When it comes to how much everything's are a wasteland, experiencing things when it comes to like the depth of a town, seeing these mutated creatures, and seeing how much of a struggle things are when it comes to the world itself, and the impact of a third world war potentially. Well, for this game, it happened. The whole thing happens because of a world war, and nukes get launched off, and we're in this post-apocalyptic world. Metro Exodus, the series itself is more horror than just a regular shooter, because there's so many things about it when it comes to from the atmosphere that leaves you in fear, that has so much suspense and whatnot. It's just such a great game, and I feel like it's a very underappreciated thing when it comes to a game being beautiful in that way, when it comes to having a beautiful atmosphere across the board. Where even the smallest of the smallest background characters feel important and feel massive and feel like they are greatly told. RDM is such a great silent protagonist. That's a dying breed. The silent protagonist is dying out, but RDM is he's perfect. He fits the role greatly. He's a silent protagonist who you can stick behind, who you want to see succeed. You want to see live a happy life. And there is impact. This game does have impact where RDM can die. This game has, I think, 3 endings, maybe 4. I think you see 3 or 4 endings this game has, and one of those endings RDM can die. So it's like it does have impact. It's me, impact in the game is a big thing, because it means that people have to pace themselves, and all the Metro games have impact. All of them do, and at no point does the game tell you how to achieve what you need to achieve to have a good ending or a bad ending. It leaves it to you as a player to figure out yourself on how those endings come across and how you achieve those endings. It's just such a good game. Like, I can't say enough good things about the Metro franchise as a whole, but also Exodus, which means just such a great, phenomenal game. I'll be honest here, like, I struggle with like these next 2 games, because both of these games not only come from the same franchise, and that kind of just spoils what the other game is going to be. But it's hard. It's hard to pick between them two, because they're so similar when it comes to how perfect and how good they are. But one game does one thing better, while the other game does something else better. But the things that they don't do at all, separately, doesn't make the other game a flaw. So Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 coming in at number 3. There's so much good in this game, and it's probably, from a lot of standpoints, the best Mass Effect game. But it does have a downside that. So we had like a little audio issue. Apparently my mic got covered, so therefore a good portion of the middle of talking about Mass Effect 2 gets cut out. So what I was basically saying was that there's a downside to Mass Effect 2, and it's more so the planet exploration. When you first started the game way back then, you made it like your point to make sure you depleted every single planet. So you would spend hours upon hours just probing planet after planet after planet, and just take all the resources. And at a later date, once you got used to how the game plays, you realize you don't need to do all of that. You can just do like a certain amount of resource gathering. But back then, it was the most tedious and most trashy thing in the game. It's the biggest flaw in Mass Effect 2, is why it's this low on the list compared to the Mass Effect titles. because of that whole aspect of going from planet to planet to probe, and collect resources. Your probes, that is, to gather resources from planets, gathering iridium, gathering element zero, gathering palladium, and all these little resources so you can upgrade your ship and upgrade your weapons and upgrade your armor and whatnot. That was such a boring aspect of the game. Like, it was so boring, and it was so, and it was also just not. Not only was it boring and not fun, it was not engaging. It was a drag, and again, if you were like a diehard who didn't know any better, you wasted so much of your time just getting every single planet, or at least every rich and good planet to deplete it, trying to make sure you just got all that you could when it came to sucking these planets dry, and it's just such a waste of time. But that's the only flaw of the game. Outside of that, Mass Effect 2 is a phenomenal game. To me, it's top 3 for one of the best RPGs of the decade. It's just so good. It shits on anything but that's come out with. Mass Effect 2 is just so fucking ridiculously good, and there's so much stake in this game. I say it again, that having your game having high stakes is so big, and it sticks. It's not like one of those games where there's high stakes and in the end you succeed. No, the high stakes in this game stick. They stay. There is no, in the next game it'll still show that those people are a thing. No, Bioware games carry over from game to game to game. So everything that you fail to do in Mass Effect 2, that carries over to Mass Effect 3. If Jack dies in Mass Effect 2, she is not in Mass Effect 3. If Miranda dies in Mass Effect 2, she's not in Mass Effect 3. If any of your companions die, they're just dead. You can literally have all your companions in the game die. You can have Shepard die again. There's so much stake in this game that they even start the game off by showing you how much BioWare does not care that someone can die by having not only Shepard killed off, the Normandy gets ripped in half the crew dies, and then the rest of the crew, your companions, get scattered across the galaxy. The game starts off by telling you, we're not bullshitting. This game's gonna have high stakes. We're showing you that by having half your crew die, having your ship get blown out the fucking space, and having the main character get fucking brutally killed. The game is just so good. Like, damn, the game is good. As I do my Negan impression. He wouldn't say game though, but trying to get that Negan voice going. But it's such a good game from the ground up. Every NPC in this game, in terms of your characters, are good. When it comes to Jack is so good. You won't find anybody who doesn't love Jack. She is so good as a character. Miranda, she grows on you. At first you kind of find her annoying. At first she's like, oh, you're just a bitch, Miranda. But she grows on you. You learn about her history, about her backstory, and you start to love her. You start to enjoy her. You start to see why she's a good character. And yes, there is freaking Jacob. Jacob's the only weak spot when it comes to your teammate, your squad members. Jacob sucks, but everybody else is great. Grunt, Mordin is so good, and Mordin, him as a character. We're gonna talk him again in the next part of the video. But Tali, Garrus. It's oh my god. You get people back like Jacob, and you get to meet you get a new member like EDI. EDI is so her and Jacob's interactions, not Jacob, her and Joker's interactions are so good and so nice and so it's just so good. There's outside of what I said before about the whole sucking planet dry being boring as fuck. This is another game where everything else is just perfect from the ground up. Everything else is just that good and perfect, and the stakes again are just so high. So here we are, number 2 for the best game of the last decade, Mass Effect 3. Again, I kind of spoiled him in with the last video when I mentioned that I have a hard time choosing between these two, and so you have to ask yourself, what is it that Mass Effect 3 did that made Mass Effect 2 lesser? Because again, they're both phenomenal, perfect games, but each of them did something different that the other game didn't do to the fullest extent. So the one thing that Mass Effect 2 did that 3 didn't do was high stakes. Yes, the stakes in Mass Effect 3 are massive when it comes to the grand scheme of things, but the stakes when it comes to the suicide mission that you go on Mass Effect 2 is bigger from the stakes that you will go in when it comes to just in general for your own crew. You're not going on a suicide mission with your entire crew. Your entire crew won't die in Mass Effect 3. So that's kind of like where those two games are different. But the flaw that 2 has that 3 doesn't have is what holds 2 back. And that's that whole, sucking planets dry. They still kind of have that in 3, but it's not as severe. You still kind of have probing with planets, but it's not as severe as it is in Mass Effect 2, and that's why 3 gets put over. And I know someone's going to go, but the ending for 3 was so bad and so much controversy. I feel like that shit was so overblown. And the biggest reason why I think that is because we didn't get what we wanted. We wanted a happy ending for Shepard. We wanted things to go differently. We got spoiled. Let's just be honest. We, as the fan base of the franchise, got spoiled by the first 2 games and how those 2 games played out. That 3, no matter how it ended, we were going to be mad because it wasn't. They could not achieve what we wanted them to achieve when it came to how they were going to end 3. But even if no matter how you feel about the ending for 3, be you like it or you don't like it, the build up from the beginning of the game to the end of the game was fucking phenomenal. Shepard, he's on trial because of what happened in Mass Effect 2's DLC, the Rival DLC. An entire Batarian freaking system being obliterated. Shepard's on trial. He's being charged for war crimes and all these things, and then boom, the Reapers fucking attack. The big bad evil that we've been hearing about for the entire franchise is fucking here. It's right there, and it's killing everybody. The entire world, Earth, the one place where we haven't had any kind of contact when it comes to, the Geth, when it comes to Collectors, when it comes to the Reapers. They have not touched Earth at all throughout the entirety of the franchise, and now Earth is in danger. The stakes rising up as the game goes on, because if you fail, it's not just Earth that dies, the entire galaxy gets wiped. And again, Shepard can die. That's the other, again, stick with Mass Effect 2's big stakes. Shepard can die. And it just continues. And it's not just Earth that's in danger. It's Ilium. It's the Asari. It's not, I forgot, Thessia. Thessia is what it's called. That's the name of the Asari homeworld. So you got Earth, you got Thessia, you got the homeworld of the Solarians, you got the homeworld for the Terrarians. Everybody's homeworld is in fucking danger. And you finally get to go to these locations that you heard of, but you've never seen. You get to go to the Asari homeworld that we've never been to before. We get to see each side of these races individually. In a way that you've never seen before. The game is just so good. The characters, again, are all still... Again, Bioware never fucks up when it came to the characters of those 3 games. Mass Effect 1 through 3, your NPCs and your crew are always perfect. It's just such a good game, and visually it's astonishing, and you feel the emotion. You feel the, like, if you go to the Citadel, and you go to, like, the little cargo area, you get to, like, experience so much emotion and so much dread and so much death and so much, sadness by just walking around and hearing, like, the background characters talking. It's so sad. And the game just has such a good... Again, it goes back to what I said about Metro. The atmosphere. The game has the atmosphere that makes you feel the time. Makes you feel what's going on in the franchise. Makes you feel what's going on in the world. You feel that dread. You feel that sadness. It's such a good game. And I said before, I watched the Q&A, and there's literally people saying that Mass Effect 3 was so good that it distracted them from life. To a point to where people who are suicidal didn't commit suicide because the game saved them. That's how good this game was. This game is just so fucking good. It's so great. And, regardless of what you think of the ending, it doesn't matter. The DLCs in this game added so much to the game. The Omega DLC, so good. The Leviathan DLC had so much implication on fucking lore. Like, that's how good that DLC was. It has so much implication on freaking lore. God, that DLC was good. That's such a good DLC. Then you have the DLC where it's basically just a fan service. It's just you, your crew, getting drunk, having a party at Shepard's condo. It was just a DLC for the fans, a DLC for you to just enjoy yourself, and that's a great nod. Mass Effect 3 is the second best game of the decade. So finally we have number 1, the greatest game of the last 10 years, and to me, the GOAT. To me, this is the greatest game of all time. I don't. You can say what you want to say. It doesn't matter. The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. It's the greatest game ever. It's the GOAT. It's the greatest game of all time. Which is funny because it's still not my favorite gaming franchise. Like, my favorite gaming franchise is Mass Effect. Number 2 is Halo. Number 3, Witcher. Witcher 3 is, no matter what else, is the best game I've ever played in my entire life. I've played so many video games between now and the 1990s where I had my Sega Genesis and my N64. From then up till now, The Witcher 3 is the best game I've ever played. And it gets this nod because of how perfect it is. Everything in this video that I've said that makes a game good, that makes a game perfect, this game has, and then it tacks on even more. Skyrim is a good game, but Skyrim's side quests are boring as fuck and just remedial and just dumb, and a lot of the side quests in Skyrim are just like, you're just someone's errand boy. The side quests in The Witcher and The Wild Hunt are more impactful than some of Skyrim's main missions. That's how good this game is. From the ground up, every individual character, even the smallest of characters, has some kind of like stake in this game, and it's such a good game. And it oh my god, it's so hard to like talk about this game because all I'm gonna sound like is just like the hugest fanboy who just basically just jerking freaking Geralt of Rivia off while he's freaking talking. Like, that's how good this game is. I'm just basically sitting here just stroking Geralt because that's what it's gonna sound like. So someone's like, you get the freaking game's dick out your mouth. It's not that good. It's that good. It's just a fucking phenomenal freaking experience from beginning to end. It starts off in a great way. It continues in a great way. If you are a fan of the franchise, you're in love with it. I played The Witcher 1. I played Witcher 2. I've read The Witcher books. This game is just so good. It's so good, in fact, even though the TV show from Netflix isn't based off the game, that show exists because of the game indirectly. The game was so good. The game received such high praise. The game was so received well and made so much money for CD Projekt Red that it made a TV series possible. Even though the series isn't based off the game, it exists because of the game. This game by itself elevated a single development team into being the most beloved and favorite development team in gaming today. CD Projekt Red can do no wrong. They are the perfect team right now because of how great this game was. Everyone is so hyped up on Cyberpunk 2077 because of this game. When they announced that game, Cyberpunk 2077, no one gave a fuck what that game was about. No one gave a fuck that it had Keanu Reeves in it. The fact that it was CD Projekt Red, everyone was like, oh my god, I cannot wait for that game. It's going to be so good. Why? Because The Witcher 3 was so fucking good. That's why people got so hyped up about a game they didn't even freaking see yet. They got so hyped up for a game because of this game. Because the developers made this game. Because if this game is as good as it is, then obviously the next game that they develop is going to be just as good or even better. And you sit here and you finish the game off and you're like, what comes next for Geralt? What comes next for Ciri? What comes next for the game? Everything about this game is so perfect. Like, again, it goes into that atmosphere of where's the flaw? This game literally, and I'm not saying this as some kind of fanboy or just because I'm being biased, this game literally has no flaw. The story, perfect. The writing, perfect. Characters, perfect. Combat, perfect. The combat is complex but also simple. That's something that's important. It's complex but also simple. It's complex enough to where you have to, there is a learning curve for you to learn how to play the game and get better at it. But it's simple enough that it's not hard to gauge how to play the game. The soundtrack, ridiculously good. I don't have to tell you how good the soundtrack is. Just watch this clip. This clip will tell you just how good the soundtrack was. It's so freaking good, and I will argue with anybody on how good this game is. With anybody. Watch my review, watch Angry Joe's review, and it goes beyond that. The DLCs for this game are the most perfect DLCs I've ever seen. Like, not only were they cheap DLCs, it came out at a time where we're confused, like we're all complaining about DLCs not being enough content. This game had DLCs that you're just like, yo, this game's DLCs is better than some games' full releases. Like, this a DLC. Every single DLC The Witcher 3 had was better than most game full release. The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC is better than Fallout 4. Like, that's how good this game was. Even one of its DLCs is better than the entirety of Fallout 4. Just one DLC is better than Dragon Age Inquisition. And yes, Inquisition's on this list, but that's how good freaking this game is. It's where its DLCs were better than a game that's on this list. That's how good CD Projekt Red is at developing video games. That's how great this franchise is. It's just that good. But with all that said, guys, this video, think I'll watch. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave any thoughts you have in the comments below. What games do you think is the best game of the decade? You know, you can do one game, you can do 10 games, you can do 40 games. I don't care. I just want to hear you guys' opinion. Let me know. Leave it in the description below. Hope you all have a good day. Hope you all enjoy yourselves. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Check out my Twitch. I'm affiliate on there, so you can, if you want to watch play video games, play The Witcher, play whatever. Follow me on Twitch. Links have me in the description box below. Again, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.